And then action.
Was that
nice?
Little,
was that the,
that's the little
clicker thing?
flipboard thing?
Yeah,
that was good.
Yeah, you know what I was doing.
Good.
All right, so actions we should be taking for this week. Basically, mine. It's kind of a homer thing here, but very valuable for everyone else. Really, don't start any Packers fantasy players except the running backs. So start AJ Dillon, start Aaron Jones for right now until this offense gets things going here. Like I said on the outset here, LaFleur has already said that they're going to get Aaron Jones more involved. We saw AJ Dillon do very well in his action this week, catching the ball very nicely, I must say. Very nice hands. Makes me very happy. But yeah, the rest of the offense just looks out of sync right now. And I don't know if that's due to the big drop that Watson had, the first offensive play of the game for the Packers, and that just kind of set them back at that point, and or if it was just the Vikings with their new coach, they wanted, they were really jacked up first game of the season. Packers Vikings is always a big rivalry game for the players, so maybe there's just a little bit more juice for the Vikings there. Rodgers just looked out of sync all game. We did see Tunyon get involved a little bit, but really he's more of the end zone target that I want to see there. So I wouldn't start him until we start to see that Packers offense move a little bit more and get in the red zone. So yeah, so that's my action for this week, is just start the running backs. You're safe there. Stay away from all other offensive fantasy players until further notice. Till we see this offense start to click a little bit.
I was this close to wanting to push this into the overreaction category, Dustin, because I actually did just see today, week 1 last year for the Packers, also terrible.
I know. The Saints
against
game.
The Saints.
I remember.
So terrible. But I want to put this into context just a little bit. Agree with the running backs. I mean, you're starting AJ Dillon and Aaron Jones without hesitation, and they should both be considered top 15 options until further notice. I still believe Aaron Jones, that's going to get corrected. The coach came out and said that's going to get corrected. But here's what I did want to point out. This is just a fun little exercise, Dustin. Now, I'm not saying that this necessarily changes your action, but context. Last year, week 1, Aaron Rodgers, 3.3 fantasy points. He was the QB 34. Aaron Jones, 4.2 fantasy points, RB 51. Devontae Adams, 10.6. Actually respectable, but not great. Wide receiver 53. Mercedes Lewis was the top scoring tight end in that first week with 2.9 fantasy points. The rest of the way, Aaron Rodgers, 22.2 fantasy points.
Right.
Aaron Jones, 16.1. Adams, 22.3. It's coming.
You don't have to remind me. I know how bad the season started last year, but the difference is, we've had Adams for how many years? And he was Rodgers' binky there on that offense, where he could go to them at any given time. He's going to catch the ball. He's going to come down with it. He doesn't have that anymore. Yeah, he's got Aaron Jones. Sure. Maybe Tunyon could be that guy when he gets back up to full speed. Maybe. But how often are you going to see him, split out wide or anything? He's more of an inline tight end going out to catch passes. So until he earns that confidence, and we know how he is with rookies on this team. I mean, we've seen it for years. If a rookie screws up, you're in his doghouse. And they can't afford to do that this year because they have no one else. So It'll be interesting to see how the dynamics play out on this offense. It scares me. I'm not going to lie. It scares me. I know eventually the ship will get corrected and we'll see fantasy goodness out of this offense. Probably more so, like I said, from Rodgers and Tunyon, more than maybe the wide receivers. But until we start to see that, I'm very nervous.
That's fair. No, I just, again, I wanted to bring it into a little context box there with some of that, because I do definitely think there's better days. And I'm saying this as the guy who ranked Aaron Rodgers super low coming into this year. I was way below consensus, but I don't want the reaction to go too far with that. But I definitely get where you're coming from. My action, I alluded to this earlier. you should be scooping up Washington players off of waivers. And my preference, I don't think it's blown any minds here, but it's Jahan Dotson, then Curtis Samuel, then Logan Thomas. And if you are hurting for a quarterback, I have no issues with picking up Carson Wentz. Again, a 4-touchdown game is going to be rare from Carson Wentz, I think, this year. So even with the 2 interceptions, he was just slanging it. He was slanging it all game long. I think that gets pulled back and reined in just a little bit, but I don't think it's pulled back enough that it stops these guys from being fantasy relevant. I wanted to highlight, I mean, all of them, again, looked really great. And Jahan Dotson, surest hands of any rookie that I've seen in quite some time here. But Curtis Samuel, a really huge surprise. You know, he's been injured off and on, especially last year, but even the year prior. So we never really got to see him with Washington truly and what they had envisioned for him. Well, what they had envisioned was 11 targets and 4 carries. You know, he ended up getting a touchdown out of it, 21 fantasy points. Like, that's massive. It's corny and it's lame, but yeah, Deebo Samuel light. Like that seems like what they want the role to be for him. And that makes sense because Brian Robinson was injured. They're running back there, so they want to get him some carries. It's not going to be outrageous, but it's enough to bolster his floor. I think he's a really incredible flex play that you should be trying to get. Again, Jahan Dotson, we already talked about. But Logan Thomas, fucking Logan Thomas, man. Early in the offseason, I had really great things to say about Logan Thomas because I acknowledged I failed in recognizing how good he was going to be last year, even in the few games that he played. He was actually still really good, and then he just got injured. I didn't think he was going to be ready to start the damn season, and all of a sudden, 2 days basically before kickoff, they're like, yep, he's going to be out there, and he's going to be, you know, limitless, and he fucking was. I mean, he played 62% of snaps, 6 targets, 45 yards. That's not an incredible stat line, but this dude just coming off an ACL tear late last season. Again, I think it was like week 10 or something. He tore it again. I mean, he looked like he really didn't miss a step. And Carson will eventually start targeting him even more as he gets comfortable, I'm sure. One little stat I want to throw out there per Jacob Gibbs from Twitter. He had the 6th most air yards amongst all tight ends. And that's like what he was when he was healthy in 2020 and the couple of games we saw him healthy in 2021. So I'm actually kind of interested. And I think what is going overlooked is like Carson Wentz is going to have to throw it a lot this year. I think that team is going to be put in those situations where they'll have to catch up a lot. So who knows who it's going to be, who's weak, but all of them should see relevance.
Yeah, absolutely.